Hey there, thanks for joining us for Season 2 of The Dominant Ones, where we explore mastery and the pursuit of excellence through being dominant. Joining us today is Charlamagne Tha God, radio icon, cultural force, and all memes aside, a really deep thinker. From radio intern to radio icon, Charlamagne's career personifies what The Dominant Ones is all about. Enjoy the show.
We can keep it real loose, man. We just talk about things in life.
All good.
Things that make you who you are, make you dominant in your thinking and where you want to go in life. So it's just conversation with us, man. We keep it real simple.
I know from seeing interviews and reading interviews that there was a period of time around the time you turned 30 that things kind of were going the wrong way for you in terms of the jobs, and you had some success, and it was like there was some setbacks, and you were living at home. And how did you get past that? How did you process that? And did it actually help in any way? Help your level of dominance now? Help you to become a dominant force in this field?
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is it's a cocktail of emotions, right? Because, when you're a God fan person like I am, I believe in faith, and I truly do believe everything happens for a reason. Like I'm never the type to be like, oh, everything's going great, I'm like, praise God. And when everything's going bad, you like, what? I'm like, no, I'm praising God in that too. I just believe everything is. And trust me, this is 42 years old in hindsight thinking, but I just believe everything is just part of one long process. So all so-called good, all so-called bad, it's not either or. It's just part of the process. So when I was in that situation, after being fired for the 4th time from radio and having a 2-year-old daughter and being back home living with my mom, I didn't know what was next, but I just accepted whatever was to come. Like I already had made it up in my mind, like I'm gonna just sit here in South Carolina, I'm gonna do local radio, and I guess I'm just gonna be, a guy in South Carolina, back in South Carolina after working with Wendy Williams, having my own morning show in Philly. I guess I'm gonna be back here doing radio. And honestly, I didn't say I accepted that, but whatever that was for that moment, I was fine with it. And then, I started getting calls from New York, and my people's from New York, and they had interest. So that let me know, like, you know what? I don't think this is God's final stop for you.
But it's that attitude that you had early on. Some of them setbacks or disappointments, it just made you tougher and stronger. And I know at times you're like, do I really want to do this on this level, or do I want to keep pursuing this, or just I want to stay local and just doing my thing? But in the back of your mind, you say, you know what, that's not who I am and what I want to do, because I know it's something bigger out there for me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to pursue it. I'm going to stick with it until, something breaks. And in sports, entertainment, it's all the same. Mm-hmm. It's the level of confidence that you have in yourself, the level of, I would say, that dominant attitude, not letting anyone telling you what you can't do, that propels you to do more.
Man, that's so true, because like I said, when I was back home in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, I already had made up my mind that if it's meant for me just to be here doing radio in Charleston, then that's what it's going to be. But I knew that I was going to score 30 a game here. You know what I mean? Right, I knew that I was going to be an all-star here. I knew that I was going to utilize the internet like I had been doing, and, letting people see my highlight tape. So even though I wasn't in New York, the big media market with, as soon as you say something, it's all over the place, I was going to make sure that I was heard here. And I just already had it in my mind, like I'm just going to bring as much attention as I can to Charleston, South Carolina. That's where I'm from anyway. So like I literally had made my mind up. That's what I was going to do. So yeah, I get what you're saying when you say, you got to have that confidence, that attitude of dominance no matter what. But also you said something, it makes you stronger and tougher. What they don't tell us is they always say, what don't kill you makes you stronger. But what they don't tell us is it's going to F you up mentally first.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it does.
It's going to F you up mentally and emotionally first. And you got to be intentional about finding that strength in the situation.
That brings something into light for me. I remember very young that I had a family member, an uncle, that told me that I would never be anything. I would never make it. I would never be successful. I'm too skinny, and I'm not good enough. And I remember vividly telling him, I said, I may not make it, but I'm gonna die trying. And I'm not gonna let you or anybody else tell me what I can't do. And really, I thank him because he gave me that driving force to keep going and keep pushing, to prove all the doubters wrong. So I was never upset with him after that. I applaud him for saying the things that he said, because it just gave me fuel to prove him wrong. And that's where that attitude, that dominant attitude comes in, that you never let anyone tell you what you can't do, because the best revenge is success.
That's right.
You don't have to say a word.
I remember those people in my life too. And those people like that, all they're doing is projecting their limitations and their insecurities onto you. They feel like since they didn't do it, that they can't actually ever see it being done, especially by their nephew. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? This guy's got less than I had, growing up. So why is he going to make it?
And he also said to me, he said, when I made it, he said, I knew you was going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm like, yeah, okay.
I'm curious because we're talking about people who underestimate us, and that becomes a motivator. What does that take not to internalize that and make it your truth? Because I know I made it my truth for like 5 years before I came out, and it was all about mentors. It was all about people in strategic places, a casting director here, a director there, another actor that I admired, saying, no, you got this. And I might not have got the job, but there was something that buoyed me at the time. Was that part of your makeup, just that confidence, or was there something where you needed other people too? Were there mentors along the way that kind of helped boost you, even in a small way, an offhand comment, something? I'm curious for both of you.
Nah, definitely. And by the way, it depends on who's telling you these things. One thing about me, my father and my mother, my father in particular, would always, push me to be great, even though, he would just, and it would be in the most country of ways, right? Like, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're going to end up in jail, dead, or broke sitting under the tree, So I didn't know what success looked like to me. I just know that success was not ending up in jail, not ending up dead, or not ending up broke sitting under the tree. So that just gave me the motivation to want to do something. And, as far as like people who say things to you that make you feel like your dreams aren't possible, it just really depends on who says it to you. I had a cousin, and she said to me one time, she told me, don't set your dreams so high, because if you set your dreams too high and you don't achieve them, you're going to be disappointed. And I remember looking at her and I said it just like this. I said, that's probably the most stupidest piece of advice I've ever gotten in my life. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
exactly.
Don't set your dreams so high. If you don't achieve them, you're going to be disappointed. I said, I'm going to set my dreams high. So even if I don't touch that dream, I'm going to touch something. I'm going to strive for something higher. And, to your point, Kelly, I did have people in my life, like my man, Dr. Robert Evans, who's a great mentor of mine, like my father, and just I used to read a lot too. So I would always get positive, reinforcement from something or somebody telling me like, yo, you're good at this. I remember Dr. Robert Evans. I used to want to rap. And Dr. Robert Evans told me, man, yo, you suck as a rapper, but you good on that radio. He said, if you focus on that radio, you probably end up being one of the best radio personalities ever. And that right there, I didn't look at it as, man, he, telling me I can't rap. That's my dream. I looked at it as, well, he might be right. I stopped rapping. I never was comfortable rapping anyway. I was just trying to figure out a way. You know what I mean? With that radio, I was comfortable at. When he told me that, it gave me the fuel to really focus on that. So yes, you need those people along the way just telling you, yo, man, keep doing your thing. Yeah, man, yo, you're good at that,
For me, it was my mom. My mom was the toughest woman or man I ever known in my life, And so my mom raised 8 kids by herself. So she was that inspiration for me, because she said, don't let anyone tell you what you can't do. He said, when people say don't set your goals high, they're not telling you the truth. And he said, because you should set your goals high, because if you come close to reaching that goals, you're going to be a successful person. So always set your goals bigger than your dreams, because anything can happen if you work hard enough for it. So my mom really was that person in my life, more so than my dad or guys on the street, that really pushed me to excel on what was my love, and that was basketball. I used to stay up all day to like midnight playing ball in the playgrounds. And my mother never had to worry about where I was at. She knew where I was at. She knew I was on the playground. I was working on my craft, working on my dream. And I dreamed on being, this is crazy. So I dreamed on being an NBA player. I knew I was going to be an NBA player at 12. I just knew it. But I never knew I was going to be a Hall of Famer. So I didn't set my dreams that high. I just set my dreams on getting the NBA. But once I got the NBA, I said, I want to be one of the best to ever do this. And so I continued to work on it. And, and it turned out, and that's what it became. But it was a lot of hard work, sweat, blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of motivation for people who cared about it.
Yeah, I think inspiration is very important. Inspiration in other people, like hearing other people's stories, seeing what other people are capable of achieving, because that gives you a bar. When I started doing radio as an intern in 1998, and then I finally got on the air in like 99, I remember being in the studio, listening to Tom Joyner, listening to Doug Banks, listening to Howard Stern, listening to Wendy Williams, Angie Martinez, Big Boy, Sway, all of these greats, and saying to myself, man, if I'm gonna do radio, I want to do it on that level. I want to be one of them. Like, cause those were the big, they still the big dogs, but those were the big dogs. I want to be one of them. And so that's where my mind went. So from that time, from 1999 to even now, that's just where my mind was always at. I was just always working on being as great as one of them. And I mean, Neek, even though you a naturally gifted, all world athlete, I'm sure it was other players that made you better. Just watching how good they were.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was guys on the playground. I played against playground legends, man, who I said, I would never be that good. These are guys who everybody gave respect. But, how I, developed such a love for basketball is I remember a playground legend I told, he said, I want you to come to boys club every day. I'm going to teach you how to play this game. I'm going to teach you the right way. And he said, you're going to owe me, but not the way you think. He said, the only thing I want from you is to give to someone else what I'm about to give to you. Mm-hmm. And I stayed with him for 4 years, man, until he gave me the courage enough to leave home when I was 16. I mean, he was like a father, He saw something in me that I didn't know I had. And so he was a special person. And the funny thing, so many, many years later, I go back to Maryland because I didn't go to Baltimore for over 35 years. It was a long time. So I went back and I redid my old playgrounds. And I'm looking in the audience and I see this guy who taught me how to play basketball after all these years. And I'm looking, I'm saying, Harold? And he's way in the background. He didn't want to be seen. I said, man, you got to come out here. So I brought him out in the middle of the court and let him. And I was talking to the media. I said, this is the guy, is the reason why I'm here today, is this guy right here. He taught me everything I know about life, everything I know about basketball was this guy right here, man. And we were both standing in the middle of the court crying. It was an emotional moment, but I've never showed my emotions, like that up until that time. It was a special moment.
When you go into an interview, and your interviews are some of the most elucidating interviews I've ever seen. Like, you get people to, you shake people. They can't do their stump speech. And it's so valuable now when everything is so canned. How much of it is planned? How much of it is like, do you have some ideas like in your holster or your back pocket of things that are going to shake them?
I just plan for interviews like anybody else. I'll write out, 20 questions that I want to ask just because I'm a curious person. Everybody that I'm sitting down with, I have some sort of interest in. Some people I'm like extreme fans of and not afraid to say it, so I'll write down questions, and if I don't get to all of those questions, fine, because the conversation might go somewhere else based off something else I asked or something else they said. I think the most important thing when you're having a conversation is listening. So I'm listening at all times. So if you notice, like, some of those moments come from me just rebounding off something that came out of the person's mouth. And honestly, I don't know what's going to go or not. It's just that, when the interview comes out, it's like, oh, that's viral. Like, some things that you hear and you be like, oh yeah, that's going to make some noise, but some things you hear and you be like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Like, I didn't know that, you know what I mean? Like, I remember when I interviewed Pete Buttigieg and we were just talking about Chick-fil-A, and, Pete Buttigieg is an openly gay man. So I'm just like, what do you think about Chick-fil-A? Like,
yeah.
And he's like, I love their chicken. Don't like their politics. That was a great answer that went viral. I didn't know that was going to go viral. I was just asking him the honest question. I don't even know how we got on the subject of Chick-fil-A in that interview. But that became a thing. So yeah, it's just stream of consciousness. It's just conversation. It's me listening more than, you know, wanting to be heard.
I'm trying to remember when you interviewed Hillary Clinton, you were talking about pantsuits, white pantsuits.
Yeah.
And you were like, are you, I can't remember, there was somebody you referenced and you were
Steve
like,
Harvey.
yeah, that's right. It's like, are you taking inspiration, like fashion?
Yeah, I would say that.
Steve
Now, I'm
Harvey?
not gonna lie. That was just one of those times I'll be in. Because I was just like, you're known for your pantsuits. Everybody says you get your fashion sense from Steve Harvey. Is that true? Like, you know, that's not a real question. You know what I mean?
But it's funny, and it actually got a great response from her. And it was one of those things, like she, like whatever anybody thinks of her, a fluidity and ease in an interview situation is not necessarily the way you describe her. And you got one of the more real, like just like unguarded responses from her that I've ever seen, and that was great.
Yeah, I wouldn't even, you know what? I'll take that back. I wouldn't say that was an asshole. That was just it was an icebreaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you loosening up, you want to loosen up the person.
It's a little jab.
Yeah. Because listen, none of these people can be the way they are all the time.
Yeah.
Like when you see somebody like, you know, Hillary Clinton, she is a person who always is robotic, right? Like a lot of those politicians are always on script. Not even just Hillary. All of those politicians are always on script. They have these talking points.
Yeah.
And the reason they have talking points is because they kind of know what they're going to be asked.
Right.
So you got to come with some like left field stuff like that just to get the real them. Because the only way to pivot out of a question like that is to rely on your regular wit and your regular humor, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it with these interviews. It's like when they sit down, it's like, yo, I want to have a real conversation with you, but how do we get there? You know, and you know, humor to me is always usually the best way. Humor or concern, and you know, both. I'm sincere with both.
What was one of the more difficult or controversial interviews that you had that got a little heated? I mean, and how did you handle it? You know, at the end of that conversation.
I mean, there's been plenty of times that interviews have gotten heated. I mean, everybody knows the Birdman situation. I mean, you know, Fredro Starr from Onyx, you know, it's been quite a few of those, but it's just like, it's nothing to me, honestly. Like, it's just like, you know, this person got upset for whatever reason. Sometimes I'm a little confused about why people get upset. Sometimes I know exactly why they got upset. Like Birdman, I knew exactly why Birdman was upset because I had been talking about Birdman for years, you know. Other times it's just like I'm thinking I'm asking a regular question, and it sets the person off. And the reason I say regular question, because it's not something I made up. It's something that I've actually heard this person say, or something we actually saw this person do. So, you know, when we're asking about it, I'm like, yeah, I can't be a surprise to you that somebody asked you about it, you know? So in those situations, man, you just roll with it. I haven't been in a situation where that's fazed me yet, you know, but I've never been in a Jim Rome situation either where, you know, somebody's grabbing me and throwing me down yet either. Right.
Someone who says, you say that one more time.
That one more time.
And I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never been in that situation. So yeah. I don't know. It's for me, I just continue with the interview as best as we can, if the person wants to.
But that takes a dominant attitude and personality to even ask a lot of those questions, you know, so you have to have a lot of confidence and, you know what, you feel pretty good about yourself and who you are, and that, you know, that you're comfortable enough asking people the questions that you answer, you know, no matter what the consequence are. Hey, this is what it is. This is where I do it. And no one is going to deter me from that. And so it brings me to my next question is, what is your definition of dominance or being dominant in what you do?
Dominance is execution to me. You know, I think execution is very hard for some people to do. You can be as talented as you want to be, you know, but you just may not know how to properly execute. Like that's what dominance is to me. Dominance is when all of us are in the studio and the producer's doing what he's supposed to do, and the cameraman's doing what they're supposed to do, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And at the end of the interview, we all feel good about that conversation, regardless of how it went. You know what I mean? Like this, just a good, solid conversation. Everybody executed. To me, that's dominance. Flawless execution or near flawless execution is dominance. I can live with anything as long as I know I executed to the best of my ability, regardless of how it goes, regardless of if the interview is good, regardless of if the interview is so-called bad, regardless of if it goes viral, regardless of if the public likes it, regardless of if the ratings for that interview was high, whatever it is, I can live with it as long as the execution was flawless. That's what I call dominance.
Well said, brother. Well said.
Is there a reaction that you have when, like Eminem or when rappers start rapping about you and taking shots? Is that something that feels like a badge of honor?
Oh, no, I love it because I grew up listening to Wendy Williams getting mentioned in records. Yeah. You know what I mean? I grew up with celebrities coming at Howard Stern for whatever reason. Yeah. So yeah, when I started getting stuff like that, I'm not gonna lie, it felt good, and it feels good because I get it both ways. Sometimes I get it with this person that's dissing me, and then sometimes I get it with a person that's just kind of like giving me props. So that's dope to me. I like hearing my name mentioned in records. That just means that you having a cultural impact. That means a lot for an artist to go in the studio and immortalize you, in a record. I appreciate that, to be honest with you.
Do you think about how you want to be remembered in your career at all?
Yeah, definitely. That's been something that's been on my mind the past couple of years, just because, I've questioned my mortality in ways that I never have. I think it started when the good brother Nipsey Hussle, got killed back in 2018. Because I knew Nipsey. Nipsey was somebody that I would have conversations with, a brother that I highly respected. We would always share information on different books. And he was a person, when I would see him, he'd always have something positive to say, and vice versa. I would always make the joke that he was a rapper that people could look up to literally and figuratively because he was like 6'4", And so I remember when I still have really bad anxiety from the day he got killed, because I remember that Sunday just, not being able to sleep, and just the trauma from that. Because I'm like, damn, if that can happen to Nipsey, that can happen to anybody. That brother was doing everything that he was supposed to be doing. So, and that was a Sunday. So even on Sunday nights now, I still have trouble sleeping because of the way I felt on that day. But, he really got me to thinking about, legacy in a real way, because this was a brother who wasn't necessarily the biggest rap star in the world, right? Hadn't really even reached the levels of success that that we know he would have gotten to, but his impact, based on what he stood for, was felt throughout the globe. I mean, the brother's funeral was at the Staples Center, and filled it up like Michael Jackson. And so for me, it's like, yeah, man, what are you doing as a human? What's your impact going to be as a human being? What are people going to say about you when you're gone? How many people have you impacted in a positive way? So yeah, to answer your question, man, all I want people to say is that he was a helper. He was a giver. To use an NBA reference, I always like to say I would rather lead the league in assists than points. I want to be the guy that got 15 assists a game, 20 assists a game, right? That's what I want to be. I want to have a whole bunch of different people who can say, man, he empowered me. Like, he put me in this position, or when I needed this, he came through. Like, that's what I want.
So what makes you dominant? How did you get to that level where that you were the dominant personality?
I don't know if I'm be honest with you. I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know if I don't know if I've ever thought like that. When I do think like that, I feel like I'm being arrogant. And when I do think like that, I feel like I'm being cocky. And I feel like the moment you actually feel that way is the moment that you lose, because you start getting comfortable a little bit, Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if I actually feel like that. I feel like I'm constantly getting better. I feel like, because even for me right now, a lot of this is new, because I feel like for so long I had like a caricature going, right? Because, you start off wanting to be the most realest version of yourself. And I was that. And then you start seeing what people are saying about you, and you see how you're being rewarded for certain things. So you might double down on that and say, oh, I'm gonna give people more of this. But then that starts to feel fake, because it's, like I said, a caricature. It's not you. But when I started going to therapy, man, like 3-4 years ago, you know, it started giving me the ability and the strength to just be comfortable being who I really am. You know what I mean? Like it's more Lenard now than Charlamagne. You know, Charlamagne was a character I created to kind of protect Lenard, because Lenard done been through a lot of trauma. You know, Lenard done been through a lot of things that, like I said, psychologically, emotionally mess you up. So it's just like I created this character to protect Lenard. But now it's like, nah, Lenard got to go out there and do the work on himself. You know, Lenard got to go out there and, you know, get that healing that we all deserve. And now I'm feeling more confident than I've ever felt, to be honest with you. So I think over the next few years, I might get to that level of feeling like dominant.
But I think you have a dominant attitude to keep doing what you're doing and stay on course and stay focused, because, you know, you've been hit a lot of different ways from a lot of different abuse from people. And to stay on course, you know, when you've been hit by so many different things and been able to handle it, it takes some form of dominance to keep a level head and keep pushing. So, man, you know, I got to tell you, man, it's just a pleasure for me to sit here and talk to you about life, about who you are and where you came from. It's just it's just refreshing for me, man. So I can't tell you how great it was to sit here and talk to you tonight.
No, same to you, Mr. Wilkins. Like I said, this has been surreal for me, man, because I literally used to watch Hawks game as a kid all the time. I remember the slam dunk contest. I remember when you went up against Jordan. I remember when you went up against Spud Webb, your teammate. You know what I mean? Like, I remember all of those things. Anytime you see me, holla at me.
All right, man. And have a wonderful holiday.
All right, peace.
Hey, thank you for watching The Dominant Ones. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons to know when we release our next episodes. And please let us know in the comments what makes you dominant.